Hello, everybody. Welcome to Webinar Wednesday. My name is Martijn Lofvers. I'm the Chief Trendwatcher of Supply Chain Media. You may also know me as the editor-in-chief of the European quarterly called Supply Chain Movement, also a website and a bi-weekly newsletter. So I will be the moderator of this afternoon. We have a great webinar coming up. We have a customer case, extensive customer case about software-driven planning as a response to a volatile demand. So basically, we'll talk with a wholesaler, Servicegrossistene of Norway. So, we have three experts next to me. So on the left, you see myself, that's me. And next to me, I have the managing director of Servicegrossistene AS in Norway, Jan. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
And next to Jan, we have Sverre Rosmo. He's general manager Nordics of Blue Ridge. Sverre, welcome.
Hello, Martin. Thank you.
And last but not least, Martijn Lofvers. He's a regional VP Europe of Blue Ridge.
Hello, Martijn.
All right, some household rules. So this webinar will be recorded and the PDF will be made available within 48 hours. So you can listen and you don't have to write stuff down. And basically, you can ask the questions along the conversations we're going to have in the next 60 minutes. You see the question functionality on the right-hand side. So you have the chat functionality, but please use the Q&A. Why? If we have a lot of questions, you can even vote on the questions you'd like to be answered. I will ask this question right away if it's in line of the conversation I will be having. If not, we'll have a Q&A at the end. So there's also an opportunity over there. And if you still have questions, if you still want to talk with either Jan, Sverre, Martin, or myself, we have an extra 30 minutes after 5 o'clock. We will be sitting down in the lounge, so you can have a direct conversation with the four of us. So feel free to join us afterwards. So just like a real event, you can walk to us and then have a one-on-one conversation. All right. Of course, there's a lot going on in supply chain. We are in a perfect storm. And now even with the war in Ukraine, it's getting worse, I would feel. And the conversation I'm having with all kinds of supply chain accesses that will be confirmed in a sense. But basically, when COVID happened 2 years ago, right after the first wave, we did a survey among 160 manufacturing, wholesale, and retail companies in Europe. And basically, we asked them what will be your investment plans for the next 18 months. And sales and operations planning was number one. End-to-end supply chain visibility was number two. And you see it here in front of you. ERP was number three, and so on. What we also saw is that the more advanced companies, the more mature companies on a level 4 or 5, they had different kind of investment plans than their overall companies. So the overall companies were doing an overhaul in ERP and WMS. That's the level 1 or 2. But the level 4 and 5, especially on end-to-end supply chain visibility, but also on analytics, they wanted to do more. And also on network design, and you see now even more. We will update this survey in the coming months. So we're already seeing that more and more companies are looking into supply chain network design, but also in supply chain risk management. And, going upstream, what are my tier 2 and tier 3 suppliers? Sverre, what do you see? Is this resembling your view on the market?
Yeah, pretty much, I would say. The interesting thing is that the core of the demand we meet in the market has been and is still supply chain planning and analytics. But more and more companies are now looking to be more sophisticated and add integrated business planning to it, or S&OP if you want.
Yep. Yeah.
So it resembles your chart pretty much what we meet in daily life, I would say.
All right. Okay, and so there's a lot of software to choose from in Europe and also in the world. But what we already have done for 11 years, we created this visual called the SCM IT Super Map. This is the representation of 2021. We're now busy of updating it for 2022. So you see all kind of software lines. The black one is the traditional ERP line. You have red is warehousing. You have the orange one, inventory optimization. A lot of flavors, as you can see on the previous slide. You saw all kind of investment plans for this particular software types. So these are the software vendors with offices in Europe in more than one country. So they are really pan-European players, and the software stations are a representation of actual implementations. It's not so much that you have some options to sell ERP or whatever. No, you have actually implemented a large extent in Europe, so you have actual expertise in that matter. Blue Ridge, one of the co-hosts of this afternoon, is an American software vendor have moved over to Europe. First started out in the Nordics and now expanding into Europe. And they are represented last year on forecasting, the light blue one, inventory management, the orange one, the middle green one, that's S&OP, and visibility. So that's where they have shown expertise in Europe, for that matter. Sverre, any comment on that?
No, it's a good representation. I would also say that while the core of our business is distribution wholesale, we also are in retail. And lately, the last 2-3 years, we have also moved into production planning, actually.
All right. And that will be probably represented in the next version of this IT supplement map. All right. Enough for now about Blue Ridge and the IT supplement map. Now let's move over to Jan and to the meat on the bone and talk about Servicegrossistene, the Norwegian wholesaler. So Jan, can you explain me? So this is a nice view of a fjord in Norway, I imagine.
Yes.
You're actually Dutch, by the way, but
Yes.
but you are living in Norway.
That's correct. I'm Dutch. My name is Jan van den Burg, and I've been living in Norway more than half of my life, in fact. But so I feel both. I feel a European. I feel myself as a European.
Okay, that's good to know. Okay, now about your company, can you tell me about what you do?
Absolutely. I think that for the listeners, first of all, thank you for listening in, and I was thinking to tell a little bit about our company to give you a background of how we work with supply chain, and then tell a little bit more about what we have been doing with the Blue Ridge system and how it has helped us to be more efficient. So yes, we are what we call a food service company. And that means that we are a national food service company, and we are a full range wholesaler, as we say. That means that we sell. I will come back to that in a minute. We are owned by 17 independent family-owned wholesalers, and they have a very high level of customer flexibility. They're close to their market. And on the central chain office, we supply the wholesalers with all the central organized services which you could think about. It's all kind of IT systems. I will come into that in a minute. The web shop, master data, very, very important for anything of data systems, in fact. Quality management, controlling, purchasing, national sales strategy, basically everything.
Oh.
And as you can see on the map, it's Norway for the ones who are maybe tuning in from outside Europe. It's a long stretch country. It's almost 3,000 kilometers long, and they're only living 5 million people. But we are the number 2 in the market, and we will actually sell more than 450 million euros this year, we expect.
One question about your responsibility. So you are responsible for this central chain office, aren't you?
That's correct. I'm responsible I'm actually the CEO of the company, and I've been that now soon 11 years. So that means that I'm responsible for, at the end, the total of the business. Yeah.
So apart from delivering to all these regions within Norway, you also have to deliver offshore, I reckon.
That's correct. We are Norway is a country with a lot of oil and gas, in fact. So we have a lot of oil platforms on the coastline, especially on the lower part on the coast, and we do sell also to those and to shipping, to fishing boats, etc., which is also a big business. So, and there we have a little. I can say something about it in a minute, but we have also there. It's different regulations. So we do sell without tax. So it's a tax-free zone. That means that your assortment has to somehow be adapted to customs, etc.
All right. Can you tell me about the revenue development in the last years?
Sure. We are actually quite proud because we have been the number 2, and we have the last 10 years had a fantastic organic growth. You can see on the blue line that we have had a relatively constant growth of about 7-8% every year. And the amounts you can divide by 10 by getting the euro. So as I mentioned, in the budget for 22 is about 4.5 450 million euros. And as you can see, in 2020 we had the Corona, and we are actually proud that we only had a fall of 14.5% in 2020, and also Corona in 21, obviously. And then already we were back on the level of 19, and now we are past Corona, hopefully forever. And we see that the branches, our food service, because we are in food service, it's like HoReCa, restaurants and canteens and hotels, and everybody knows that was kind of closed in 2020 and parts of 21. But we are very proud that we did so well as we did, and that we now, really have the turbo on, and it's going the right way.
So, and you also are delivering to hospitals, aren't you?
That's correct. I will say something in a minute about our customer segments, because it's also very important to have a view on. I will say something about that in a minute.
Right.
Go to the next one.
Yeah, maybe you can say something about your strategic orientation.
Yes. So we have a very, the company is founded 60 years ago, and then it was all about everybody was running the business locally. And now we are a complete, like a chain, like any other food service chain in Europe, I would say, where we somehow work very integrated towards each other, but we have a clear role setting where we do everything which is smart to do on a national level instead of on a local level. We do nationally, and that's basically what it's sales, national sales, a lot of national contract, like the hospitals, for example. In Norway, they negotiate on a national level. That's a contract we actually have, so we deliver to all the hospitals in Norway. That's national sales, as an example. Of course, national purchasing, IT systems, we'll talk more about that in a minute, category development, master data, marketing, quality assurance, finance, chain strategy, everything. And locally, we want to be different than the big traditional centrally owned players of this world, who have, in my philosophy, more a one-size-fits-all philosophy. Well, we are very local, customer-focused and flexible. So we adjust ourselves completely to the customer, each and single customer, both when it comes to delivery frequency, but also when it comes to assortment. So it's not us who decides what we have in our assortment, but it's the customer.
All right. And how big is this central chain office? How many people are working in your?
We are about 50 people.
Okay, right. And so all these departments you mentioned here, marketing, sales, purchasing, in the central way, is in that company.
That's correct. Yep, absolutely.
All right. Now getting to the business, can you tell me some more about who are your suppliers and your customers?
Yes. So we have this is an example. On the left, you see some branded goods and local suppliers. You see some of the suppliers we do have. It's like, okay, there's some local ones you might not know, but everybody knows Coca-Cola, Unilever, and for example, Mondelez. And in that matter, we have about 200 national suppliers. And of course, then we have all the local suppliers, but that's a different game. And then those national suppliers, they go. We somehow distribute them along the country, and we deliver, as you see on the right, on the market, 3 main segments, channels, you could say. Public sector, like hospitals, kindergartens, and communities. Private sector, it's like hotels, bar, canteen, restaurant, and fast food. And on the offshore, as I mentioned, with the supply ships and also oil platforms and fishing boats. And what is interesting, maybe for the audience to be aware of, is that in Europe, my experience is that most of the suppliers in our business, in the food and beverages business, they deliver SIF. So they deliver at your doorstep, you could say, as an integrated part of the purchasing condition. So if you buy in, let's say, Germany from Unilever, as a wholesaler, you get it to your door, and then your job is to bring it to the end customer, as for example, a restaurant around the corner. But in Norway, the market is somehow a little bit different, and we have to buy all of those suppliers I just mentioned, ex-works. And that's a real challenge, because then we have also a huge complexity when it comes to picking up the products from the different factories or warehouses. That could be different reach. So there's a complexity of picking up the products to the warehouse and also bringing it to the customer. And for example, just to give you an idea, this is a bit extreme, but the red dot in the top is at the archipel Lofoten. It's a fantastic area. It's actually the picture you saw in the beginning. And the guys who go to the Russian border, Norway is actually bordering 200 kilometers on the northeast with Russia. and we drive through Finland and Sweden to get there. It's it's actually 1,010 kilometers one way, and we do that twice a week to deliver products. So it's quite a logistics in the north, but also at the same time in Oslo we do 2 times a day delivery in the city center 7 days a week. So it's a big variety of supplying flexibility.
But on the other hand, say, okay, when you are buying X work, it also provides you the opportunity to merge flow of goods from different vendors into your stream, into your warehouse.
Absolutely, and we are in a high volume but low margin business. So for us to work together with and by using of IT to somehow be more efficient in the value chain is crucial to somehow survive.
Yeah, I can imagine so. And maybe you can tell me a bit more about the segmentation of your offering.
Yes, like I was mentioning, we are a company that has a full assortment, and that means that we sell products, dry goods or ambient products. We sell frozen, and we sell chilled products. So that gives a complexity when it comes to distribution. But also the shelf life is very different, and that's also a challenge when it comes to, and there like for everybody knows, milk is, let's say, up to 8 days or something. Mm-hmm. And at the other time we sell red wine or vodka, which is like many years, or canned products. Yeah. So this is also important to think about how you secure that you don't have too much waste in the value chain.
Yeah, and you will come back to it later on with the results of what you have been doing. I also read somewhere in an article interview with you that you have 4 overall KPIs. Could you mention which one they are?
Yeah, we are. I will come back to that later, but of course we look at the rotation of the stock levels, mm-hmm. and the rotation of that. We look at the what we call customer service index. So our ability to somehow deliver an exact order in time. We look at whether we are able to deliver A brands. And these are some of the things we look at.
Yeah, but I also read that you also not next to the service to the customers, you also service from your suppliers, and so
that's correct. We see that it's crucial, especially now. Well, I can say when you have the war going on, and the supply chain is very fragmented and very it's challenging to get some of the European products in time. Mm-hmm. The best example, of course, is the sunflower oil from Ukraine, and that's also frying oil for all the pommes frites, or what do you call it, the French fries, as you call them.
Yep.
So it's a matter of getting them in time, and what we see when customers somehow, let's say, are complaining almost about us not being able to deliver. It's crucial for us to see whether it's something we have to improve on, or if it's due to the supplier which is not able to supply in time. And that the Blue Ridge system is actually giving us also this index to see whether the supplier is able to deliver in time. Right. And that also helps us. I can also imagine, you can imagine in our business, and I think most of the business of the companies who are trading, it's all about volume, to get better conditions, to make more money, or to give it to the customer. And if we see that we do not have a development, let's say at Unilever, as what Unilever might hope when we do the negotiations, then we can also address and say, okay, but dear Unilever, as an example, you haven't been able to deliver us the orders we have actually placed, and you only delivered on 95% of the orders placed. So no wonder that we cannot. We could have sold more if it wouldn't have been for your supplying quality.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, could you say something about the geographics across Europe for your company?
Yes, I'm actually the president of the board of ECD, which is it stands for European Catering Distributors. So it's companies just like us, and we are represented in 18 countries. And I've been the director of the board 8 years, and we do different things together there. We talk about suppliers, competence. For example, IT. We talk a lot about IT these days. We share international customers, like say IKEA is an example, but also different hotel chains. and we are a big group. In fact, we have, of course, the big countries like England. There's a company called Kpis. We have in Germany Servicebund, and just around we expect the sales to exceed actually 10 billion euros in only food service.
That's big. Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
And this case is focusing on Norway for the audience, to be clear,
Yeah.
So, all right.
Absolutely.
You mentioned that IT is a big issue. I can imagine so.
It's a big issue, and I can also mention to you, Martijn, that generally speaking, in the Scandinavian markets or the Nordic markets, if you want, we are somehow a little bit more digitalized than further south in Europe. And also that has to do with the cost of living in Scandinavia and to attract people. So we have a relatively high digitalized infrastructure.
I know from Finland, because going north, it's darker for most of the times of the day. So a lot of people are doing stuff in their sheds, and that's why there's more computing in the Nordics than the rest of Europe, because it's so dark. There are more hours in the dark.
You have to sell the Scandinavian market. It's fantastic here.
I know.
Like in the summer we don't work.
Yeah. But in winter time, you have a lot of time to do IT stuff when you're not sleeping. So I've been to Scandinavia a lot of times, so I know.
Yeah.
All right. You mentioned IT is very important. Let's move into the IT.
You can also see here in the countries in Europe, for the ones. You see the Norwegian market. It's going over Sweden and Finland to the Russian border there at the top.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you mentioned that. So, but can you explain about your group, how your IT infrastructure is look like?
Absolutely. This is a relatively updated picture. What should I say? I can say the first thing I think is important to be aware of is that even though we have what I mentioned, local family-owned businesses who are somehow running their everyday flexibility to the customer, we have all our IT systems centrally.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And we are actually quite proud on that, because we are usually often underestimated by this. So in the purple area, you see the Microsoft Dynamics 365. We are in the phase of launch. We have had Axapta 2009 all these years, and we're now in the last phase of going into Microsoft Dynamics 365. And as you see, it's the master data management, and I can't stress it enough, the importance of master data as a base for running a professional business. And then we have the whole functionality of Microsoft Dynamics, and we build our own somehow systems around it, tailor-made to be the way we are, to make, because what is important is that we have a flexible customer offering to our customers, and we do not want IT to limit that unique selling point, you could say, or our DNA, if you want. Mm-hmm. So else we have in this purple area, we have the central integrations like SuperOffice, which is I mentioned here the brands, but what it is it's a customer relation management system.
Yep.
We have Apport, which is a warehouse management system. That means that all the people in our warehouses, they are picking either by voice or by terminal. Optimizely is a Swedish company who just recently changed their name. It's was called IP Server, and it's basically a framework for building a web shop. And we have invested lots of money to improve. Actually, 80% of the sales is over our web shop. And Blue Ridge, we all know what it is. And also iShare, it's actually a system where all our invoices automatically scanned and automatically put straight in Dynamics. So we don't have, it's completely seamless and digitalized. Mm-hmm. On the bottom, you can see, of course, the Microsoft Power Platforms. I don't go into that. And we have the Azure, everything is in Azure. Mm-hmm. And on top, you can see all the Office applications somehow. I don't talk about that. On the left side, you can see on the top catalogs. So there are different ways how we catch an order. The Millennium is kind of a hotels.com, if you want, if we would be the Hilton, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. So how do we catch an order from hotels.com? Well, we use Millennium. We have different public sector platforms. I don't go into those. And the one on the CCEN is actually like Coca-Cola. So we have actually an integrated partnership with Coca-Cola nationally, where we do the job for Coca-Cola, and they catch the order in their systems, and we have an integration with them. When it comes to other integrations, I don't think it's so interesting. But as I mentioned, this Emma Twin is the number 4. That's with the customs, and I think. As a Dutchman, I know we are relatively advanced, that we have the custom service in Norway to have an integration to make sure that we do pay VAT when we have to, and that we don't where we don't have to. And the other things are a lot of them on the behind there are below. I would say is mostly financially, but the EDI is also interesting to mention. That's the we're all ordering with our this 200 national suppliers. We do by EDI, so we have built integrations with Unilever, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, etc., Nestle, all of those. So our orders are punched straight from the system, and more from Blue Ridge straight into the system and then to the customer. So it's more and more seamless and less hands.
Okay, I have two questions. First, you mentioned transport management is very complex. Have you already chosen a TMS? I don't see it here in this area.
That's correct. We are just about to test. I didn't put it on because it's a very local company, but we are doing a transport management system that we have the tours automatically planned, and also with SMS services that the customers can be somehow warned, alerted when delayed. And that's a company called Zendera we talk with. So you can see. I can say that I feel sometimes we are more and more for a digital company than a trading company. But I think it's crucial to meet the future and also to be scalable to grow the way we have been doing.
You know, I've been talking to a lot of supply chain directors the last weeks because of the war in the Ukraine and all the turbulence. And basically, you know, they all stress that the most important flow is not the flow of goods or the financial flows, but the IT, the information flow. That's the most important things, because that if you don't have that in place, you can't do anything. Another question. You know, you say master data management is crucial. How do you address it? How do you manage your master data?
The master data, we have an own team with actually 6 people working on it every day. So we get this. Most people have heard about GS1. That's like we get some data from there, not from the big ones, and we add. But we have to add more and more data. So on one product, we might have 500 attributes, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's the alert, it's the allergy which has come on. It is because that's important. It has to do with nutrition information. It has to do with recipes, but also, for example, logistical information, which in this supply chain for us is extremely important. I mean, if you sometimes if you have a truck driving around and they can only carry, let's say, 1,000 kilos to make an point, and then you have to make sure that you know that you pack that truck as full as possible, because the driver and the fuel, they are just as expensive if the truck is half full or full.
Yep.
And you have to make sure that you are smart in filling up the trucks when it comes to the what I call in transport to the warehouse, but also to the customer. So it's important. So there's so much, and then of course in our case, we are in the business branch. We also put pricing and calculations in on a central level. And you know, companies who have still a way to go in this area, they will find out when they have an ERP system and they go more and more on the internet. If you don't have commercial good data, your web shop will also might not have pictures, or it might just look a little bit. If you search on a product, you might get products which are not the ones you search for as an intuitive, because the quality of the data is not sufficient. So, and it also has to do, of course, with this warehouse management of our port, but also obviously with Blue Ridge. So it has impact on everything.
Yeah, and I can only support what you're saying about your ERP, because a lot of companies have implemented ERP, but a lot of the parameters are still on default, and that's a huge part of failure. And an overhaul of ERP is not the solution. Master data management is. Now moving over to Blue Ridge. So can you tell me a bit, the journey of Blue Ridge? I would say.
Yes, I can do that. As you see, we exist since 1962. So we decided we have now implemented Blue Ridge as a supply chain in one go to all the wholesalers after a pilot. So we had a pilot, and then we have now all the wholesalers over in one go. So I think I was thinking what could be interesting for the listeners to say something about, and maybe the first thing is that I would like to explain a little bit why we went for Blue Ridge and why we went for supply and chain management system.
Okay.
So the first thing is we wanted to be more effective in purchase processes. We wanted to improve the quality of purchasing with fewer resources. So it's actually two things. It's the quality and also with fewer resources. As mentioned, on total, we sold last year 60,000 unique products, and we sourced from more than 200 locations. And a large part is fresh goods, as mentioned. So there's a high order complexity, and that means that the buyers were in a very hectic every day because they always had to somehow go through the lists every day to make sure that we had stock in-house. This is something we want to do better.
Okay.
We wanted to give the purchasers more time for strategic purchase opportunities. We wanted to take the advantage of, pallet discounts, bulk offers, smart buy opportunities before price increases. And at the moment, with the Ukraine crisis, it's, as I mentioned, it's very challenging in the supply chain. As an example, and this as example, this fried oil from Ukraine. Of course, we still get products from or similar products from other markets. But of course, there is not enough demand, and the prices are increasing rocket high. But that means that we have to, and we get monthly price increases, and we have to be smart to buy enough that we can take some extra margin. As an example, we wanted to have a more healthy stock in each warehouse, and to make sure that our customer quality is more updated. And of course, you have a high demand variable, volatility, and especially with the corona now, the last 2 years. I mean, everybody understands it has been, the government in each markets have, from week to another, they change their somehow regulations, and it affected our HoReCa business. So big volatility. Of course, traditionally we have the seasonality, holiday management. Within the week there's a big demand, what I call intra-week demand. So there's a lot of patterns, and that all has to be somehow adds up to how healthy is your stock.
All right. And some more.
Yes.
Wise? Yeah.
What we wanted is that the market at the moment is it's an employee market. So that means people move from time to time, people get ill, and we wanted that to be less dependent on some of the people who have been there 10 years and have everything in their head. And we wanted to have more into the system. In addition, to be honest, sometimes we pay people for a seniority, while what they do, because they're flying around, try to somehow create some structure in the chaos, and that could have been done simpler. So we want to have more competence in the system.
So you don't want to have a monkey business, so and
in that way, yes. And we rather use the people with things they really can use their mastermind, you could say.
Yeah, makes sense.
Also, an important thing is we did a test already back in 2018 in our biggest member and wholesaler in just outside Oslo region, and it has been a big success. I will say something more about that. And there was also a base to say, okay, these advantages we want to also give to all the other members.
All right.
This is how we always work. We always take a pilot first before we go on with all the rest. And last but not least, we were also happy that that Blue Ridge actually had a company called Unipro. We know them a little bit through ECD, and they had an interesting, I would say, investment model that enabled that all our members, big or small, could see a value in investing in Blue Ridge and having a payback time, a very short payback time. So also the model and also the fact that they went over, it supported our idea that we have to go on, and Blue Ridge is the right partner.
So basically, you know, the license model of Blue Ridge was flexible enough also to support smaller companies who might not have the usual budget for these kind of IT systems.
Absolutely, and we had a good system for that. Yes, absolutely.
A question maybe for later on, but how have you calculated your ROI on this, or would you come back with that?
We haven't.
Okay.
But it has been very obvious for us for the moment, and it's difficult because there's so many. You know, it's an operational part. You know, I can say something about that in a minute. We actually do the same thing with fewer people, and there the ROI is very transparent. Mm-hmm. But also from a more management perspective, it's more unclear, but it's there for sure. We wouldn't live without it.
No. All right, just first the pilot and then the rollout. Maybe you can explain how you started the pilot.
I think this is an interesting slide. If you go to the next one, please. Let me see. I think what we did is we did the full integration of the Blue Ridge solution, both the demand planning, the inventory management. And all the things you can see here on the list. I think the most important is now that I will say something about the experiences we have had with the Servicegrossistene pilot.
Yep.
So I think here it starts. I will explain a little bit this graph we've made here. If you look on the left, this is how we worked in the old days, like where it says from. We tried to control each and single buyer tried to control their responsibility by buying of these maybe 60-70 suppliers every day in an efficient way, that we didn't have overstocks, etc., and we get a good price. And then the other time of their day, where they were in the afternoon, somehow they were correcting and calling around. We need some more, we need some less. And we tried to learn because we saw how we worked, but we tried to prevent, but time goes by and we weren't. And we wanted to go to a more that we'll use less time on in a way the simple thing by buying and correcting, and use that as 20%, and use more on preventing and not the least the strategic and the technical potential. So we went from a reactive to a more proactive attitude as a purchaser. Mm-hmm. I think what we succeeded with in our pilot, we had, in fact, in this company, it's a big one. It's about 80 million euros. They had 4 buyers. And remember, when I talk about our assortment, I haven't mentioned so much about alcohol, but you can think with all the wine and all the liquors, there is so much complexity, and to make sure that each restaurant gets the wine they have on their menu, it's challenging to keep that under control. So we actually, within 6 months, we could reduce the staff from 4 to 2 people. In our case, that didn't mean that they were laid off, but we could reuse these resources in different areas of the business because we are growing, as you have seen. In addition, we have been much more professional and like I said, more technical on strategic potentials, and that I already mentioned a little bit about, how can we utilize on pallets? How can we utilize on, typically in the old days before the war, you could also say, especially coffee as an example, it's a big trade product in the world market. And if we see that, okay, coffee is going to increase with, let's say, 12%, then and the coffee has a shelf life of, let's say, 6 months or 9 months, then we typically would buy much more than we need for the next 3 weeks or the next week, just to capitalize on a better margin after the sales price increase. And that is typically an example of strategic potential. But if you have so many products to look after, you don't you don't manage to do so in the situation as on the left. So we increased our competence. We had more time to negotiate with suppliers about good deals, and and that has given us good effects. And that was the base for moving on to all the wholesalers. What I can also say, of course, the system has been actually. Sometimes I feel myself as a salesperson of Blue Ridge, but it has really been a good system for us. But what our learnings are that don't adjust to the system the way it's set up, and don't try to let the system adjust to yourself the way you work. And that is and what we see is that young people who are grown up with IT, you could say, much easier pick that up than the more older ones like me. I'm 53. In addition, of course, it's like with, in a way, any system. I also must say, when I heard you talking, Martijn, there's a lot of somehow buzzwords in any business, and also in the supply chain business. And I think for the people who are from day to day working in the traditional way, that's what we did. There's a lot of there's some buzzwords you have to start understanding what we talk about. And once you do that, you realize the quick wins.
All right. For time's sake, we have to be a bit careful for time, but we are all right. So what is your main conclusion? And then we get to the rollout.
I think what I can do is I can give some examples of our successes. I think that's maybe interesting. I think if you go ahead two slides, Martijn. Okay, stop here just a second. What I would like to say a little bit is about, I think that's important for us, because Blue Ridge for us has been, of course, you have the system, but the Blue Ridge has competition like everybody. But for us, in fact, the lifeline, which is what they call lifeline, is that their structured way to, I mean, they are like a bug. They don't leave you before you were happy, or that's the wrong example, but they don't leave you before you actually capitalize on the system. Yeah. So I've been in the software IT systems, we are working with a lot, and some companies, they are happy. Then you put the signature on the contract, and then you have a hard time to get a hold of them almost, to put it like that. And Blue Ridge is the opposite. They don't give up until you are smiling and you're happy, and that has been an easy way in our case, but I think that is a big value of Blue Ridge. And also the Lifeline program, which is like a quarterly somehow active follow-up system, where they really engage themselves to secure that you utilize the potentials you have in the system. And for us, that has been giving us a real feeling that it's that they really care.
Yeah, it's kind of a life support system with consultants, and they track also with the usage of the system, but also by others in the similar industries, so they can actually have more insights and have some advice on how you use the system, and you take the most out of it. One thing is the Mayo is a multi-level echelon inventory optimization, and the supply chain analytics is SCA. So for the ones.
Yes, and that is also interesting, because we have might not have seen it. We have a cross-dock central in the Oslo region, just to do more efficient, logistics up to the warehouses, and also a central warehouse. And you have an integrated picture on the total value chain by having the 17 local wholesalers up to your central warehouse. So it makes it easy to also order in time for your central warehouse, because it's all connected.
Yeah. One important thing about this slide is about the first line is the training, the basic training. That's so important to train your users. Yeah.
Very good point, Martijn. I almost forgot about that. We were in Norway, at least we were in a Corona restricted time again, also in November, December last year. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to keep on going by rolling out, and we said, let's give it a go. We do everything by teams. All 15 wholesalers, and we talk about 40 people, and we did the basic trainings by teams in a high frequency with teams, and the ones who couldn't join, we put them on in different alternatives, and it has worked. And in a country like Norway, it's like in a way like big Germany or the US, it's a costly thing to travel plus time consuming, and this has been very efficient and it worked.
IBP will get back to that later, but maybe you can say some examples, tell us about it, or what you mentioned before.
Yes. So here you can see an example of the forecast of the pilot company. So you can see in the beginning there is looks more like the Swiss Alps, and later on it's like Holland, almost flat within the orange lines, and that means that we have more from week to week. We have more and more from the weeks are going to the right, from the left to the right. You can see that after some hiccups in the start, and also a little bit down the line, a few times over we had too much stock or too little stock, but we are more or less within our forecast. And you can see we have an accuracy in this, if you can read it, it's on 103.5. That means we only have 3.5% differences of the needs we have. And today, and that was at the pilot at the time in 2018-19. At the moment, we are within an interval of about 2%.
Oh, that's great. That's marvelous, actually. And if you look at the main group,
we also see improvements. You cannot see the last one is then the week was over. So also in the main group we see the same trend. Simply said.
Yeah, and okay. So the 2022 is the green one. Do you see now? Can you already see things happening?
Correct, Martijn. You're sorry. I could explain that better.
Yeah.
Like you are a smart guy. I see. So the blue part is the 2021 when we started in week 37, and you see it's a bit up and down outside the yellow somehow zone or the orange lines, and the green part is this year, and you see that we are more in line now the last weeks.
So what happened in week 5? Is it something you have already?
I think it had to do with the fact that we were staffing up on a regulations opening of the country.
All right.
And that the system didn't know because they can't listen to the radio yet or the TV. But that is something for the future for Blue Ridge perhaps. But so we had to help the system and tell them, okay, now the market is open, the restaurants are going to be open, the alcohol is allowed to be served. So we had to staff up, and the system said something else, but that was okay. And then it was in time again.
All right, interesting. And looking at service level, how did it evolve?
That's also good. We are, as I write here, on industry levels. In fact, it sounds maybe not so high, but in the market, if you are above 97.5, the customers, if it could be the big big canteens, they are happy. Yeah. So in this case, we are on 99.25, and sometimes I'm asking myself, are we too good? But that's also a little bit about our cutting edge of our business.
Yeah, and sometimes this is probably what I say, an inside-out view. If you have some systems, if you look at how your customers are seeing you, so this is they might have a different view. So basically, but still, this from an inside-out perspective, this is great. But if you ask it from your customers, they have some other. Might have other opinions, but that's hard.
Yeah, but they are very happy because you could say that this is one of our cutting edges. I mean, Unix, of our business, and remember that even they ask for, let's say rice of brand A. If we won't have it, we might even deliver the B brand after conversation with the customer. So and that happens, of course, also now with the trouble in the value chain. But that's not part of the statistics. So the statistics is if you ask brand A of rice, then in 25% of the cases you get it, and with the quantity you ask for.
Oh, that's good. And on the main group, how has it evolved?
There you see the same. It has, of course, in the beginning when we introduced the system, it was a bit more unstable. But that's typically in the beginning. The system has to somehow set itself, and we have also but now it's also getting in a good trend. So we are very happy, and that I think is also maybe important to say that we don't encounter that our wholesalers, our 15 wholesalers, somehow see the world completely different than our pilots.
And don't you experience bullwhip effects in that if you have leveled it out and the system makes sure that you don't overbuy stuff and that kind of things?
I didn't catch your question, to be honest.
So we see a lot of bullwhip effects. So you buy more than you actually need, and is that something because of the uncertainty?
Yes.
When I look at this, it's quite stable, so you don't have kind of
No, that's
overbuy.
correct.
Yeah.
But it's very at the moment. Of course, it's a bit extra special because the price. Normally, we have typically two price changes in a year.
Yeah.
And now we have it actually a monthly because of especially the products which are affected by the Ukraine war.
Yeah. And if you look at it, the A items, if you look at the segmentation,
The A items we have been very good, and that is also extremely important that we are, and it's typically connected to. I mean, okay, we don't supply to McDonald's, but we supply to Max. It's a hamburger chain in Scandinavia, and something of the same. And of course, everybody understands that if you deliver, let's say McDonald's, you cannot be without the bread of a Big Mac. And that on a lot of concepts in our customer portfolio, they have these signature dishes typically for restaurants or typically hamburgers I mentioned on a food place, and of course it's crucial that hamburger is used and not another one. So on rice they might sometimes say it's okay, or on mice or anything like that, but on a hamburger it's crucial. So it's important to have focus on, and we're happy that we do good.
Yeah, but especially with these uncertain times, product segmentation and also customer segmentation and both at the same time is important. How do you performing on a item level, and that's how it's presented here. And if you look at the main group, so what are the
it's
results
basically
there?
the same. I have no comments on that. In fact.
No. All right, and now if you look at inventory management and overstocks, and also with the sustainability of food waste, what are the results over there?
Absolutely, and this is actually also in my role as the CEO of the company. It's also something we are very much focused on because to reduce your overstock or your stock in a way. First of all, it's a great development. We went from 22% overstock to 5%, and it's all about less waste. I mean, we don't want to throw away milk through the drain. It's also about sustainability, as you were mentioning in your introduction, Martijn. It's also about more cash flow. So we borrow money from the bank, obviously, and by reducing this, we borrow less. It's about shelf life, better shelf life, because the customer also would like to have the best shelf life available, so that they can have the milk or anything else standing a bit longer if necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And it also gives you more free locations at the warehouse, because at the end of the day, warehouse is always too small. And that gives you space for products which are actually in demand or
stock turns is hugely important, especially in the wholesale area. And if you look at the whole group,
there we also see, of course, the big reduction, and you can say, of course, the further away from Oslo, you could say, of course, the stocks have to be higher to make sure that we can have a high service level, because it takes time to get the products from Europe to the north of Norway, as I showed initially, and as I mentioned, the pilot was in Oslo region, so you see a higher level of overstock, but you see also that it's quickly reducing after the introduction, and I'm sure we haven't seen the bottom of it, if you know what I mean.
No, because in the previous slide we went from 22% to 5%. What are your expectations for going down with 28%? When are you happy?
Of course, we are not solely focused on reducing it, because at the end of the day, it's all about customers. So, but I think that we could maybe go back to 14, for example, just get to 14% overstock. That would maybe be a good, because you remember, from Oslo to the north, as I mentioned, to this warehouse is 2 days driving for a truck.
Yes.
So obviously you need some more stocks to make sure that you can deliver.
Yeah, you have your in transit stock, and basically when we saw with the last year, there's a scarcity of goods. So maybe also from a strategic perspective, it might be good to have a bit more, because you don't know what will happen geopolitics. All right, now the last phase is the IBP part, and that is also of interest to see. Okay, can you explain a bit more about this?
Yes, I can talk half an hour about this, but what I will do now is I will keep it short, and it is that there is a lot of information behind IBP. What you don't see, I can say first perhaps, is that we are always excited about how does our sales look in March. We know because it's April now, and we know the sales from yesterday, but we don't have the real feeling as a CEO in my case of what is the temperature right now in the country when it comes to expected sales up to our budget. And also IBP helps us by seeing the prognosis, because we see that, for example, Bluewish expects to, let's say, a total volume of X next week, and then we see, the week after we say, for example, Bluewish had 102, so they expected a little bit too much or a little bit too little, but the system is so intelligent that you also can do better forecasting. When it comes to IBP, I think, like I mentioned, we can also now plan in any dimension. So, on a product level, for example, this sunflower oil from Ukraine, but we can also do it on a location, geographics, and on channel. And maybe it's interesting to mention for the audience is that when Corona hit Norway or perhaps Europe, almost at the same time, I feel it was in March 2020. The authorities in Norway, they said, all restaurants have to be closed. So we understood that the hotels and the restaurants, nobody's going to be there. But we also understood that the hospitals, they still need food. We also knew that the kindergartens still need food. We also knew that the fast food restaurant, the fast food just on the road, or the kebab places, these kind of pizza places where you just do a takeaway, they will still be there, and maybe even more. So what we did is we said, hotels is normally it's index 100. Now it will be index 5. Restaurants are index 5. I can't remember the figures, but this is how we did it. We said, hospitals the same, actually 95, I think, because not as much visitors. And then we looked in the fast food, and I think we even set it up a little bit. And by just doing that, because as an example, Coca-Cola, you sell to all these segments. You sell it to a hotel, you sell it to fast food, you sell it to a Michelin star restaurant. And how do you make sure that you know what to buy of Coca-Cola next week? Well, by doing this.
So you react to market scenarios, but also what I understand, you have also what we call future COGS, cost of goods sold, and that's nowadays in these turbulent times that's very much important. How to respond to things that might happen.
Yes, absolutely, and that's because the prices are going through the roof, unfortunately, and also the valuta is changing heavily. So it's an interesting mix.
Yeah, and this is finally, it's making more IBP tangible. Most of the times I hear about IBP, it's about the decision-making process and how to optimize margin, quite academic and theoretical. But how you explain it is like more tangible and practical to use it. And the system like this is explaining what to expect for the near future up to September 2020. I see already. So
absolutely, and it's the fascinating thing. It's a quite central system because it's of interest of a lot of different somehow stakeholders, depending on even within sales, within purchasing, but also from a financial point of view, or as a CEO in my case, there are reports who have interest to get a grasp of how the business is going.
Yeah, right. So we're almost out of time, but it's a good point because maybe this is the final slide from your side.
I think, we are, the simply said, we are very happy with these kind of systems, and Bluewish has been a company we have been very happy with to work together with, and we feel that they are part of the company somehow, if you know what I mean. It's they are there when we need them.
All right. Yes. So we're almost out of time, but I've asked a lot of questions myself, also from the audience. So basically, I would invite everybody who would like to learn more to join me in the lounge right after this, because I'm going to wrap up in a minute. So basically, if you want to talk to Jan, Martijn, or Sven, or myself afterwards, please join me in the lounge. We will be sitting at table 1. So with this, I would like to wrap up, because we've spent a lot of time, great stuff about the wholesale in Norway. For further reading, you can download the IT Subway map, the 2021 version, and there's a lot of resources on the website of Blue Ridge. So you have the link here. And with this, I would like to thank you, Sverre, for introduction, and also Martijn for standing by, and especially Jan. I would like to thank you for a great explanation of a great company and a great example how you manage all this in these turbulent times. And I hope this will also expand across Europe. So Jan, thank you for this.
It's been a pleasure, and please feel free to contact me by mail or anything LinkedIn if you have questions.
Okay. And for the audience, thank you for listening, and I hope you will have liked it. And I hope to see you next Wednesday. We have another webinar, and maybe I'll see you right after this in the lounge. And by doing this, I would like to thank you, and I hopefully to see you. And thank you, and see you later in the lounge or next Wednesday. Thank you, and bye-bye.